many times we get data files and they're not in the best format. Now, I'm just going to show a simple example for today, but hopefully you can use your imagination and think of other ways that this could be used. A lot of times people use report writer tools like Monarch or ACL or even IDEA has within them an ability to take files that look like this and turn them into data files that are going to look like at the end of what we are doing today, and much more in a row and columnar type format. Now again, this is a simple example. We probably could use pivot tables, report writer tools, all these other things, but let's just show how with a macro we can do the same thing. So taking this data, I'm going to start, and this is vendor invoices by department, and notice we have each vendor, and then underneath we have the 7 departments and how much money was spent in each department. And let's just say that we wanted to put this data in more of a organized format across the top here. Well, the first thing that I can do is just manually add to the top here, and we'll just go to our paste transpose, and that'll put the departments in that format. Then I can add a header line here that says vendor. Maybe, just to make it a little neat, I'll insert a column there just so that we have a little bit of extra space. Okay, now that my schedule is ready to go, what I can do is get ready to do my macro. Now, going to my developer tab, I want to make sure relative references is set to on, and you'll notice it'll be orange when it's set to on. And with that said, now we're ready to carefully get started. I'm going to select my macro button below here, and that will start a macro. Now I'm going to call this transpose data, and why don't we call it department. I'm going to save it just in this current workbook, and as a shortcut key, I'm going to do Control Shift E for, just so we know. I know we haven't used that one to date, so Control Shift E will bring up that particular macro. Okay, so now I'm on. What I can do, because I know that I'm only a few rows over here, is I can copy this information by right-clicking and saying copy, and move my cursor over 3 spaces, and then do a paste, and in this case I'll just do a normal paste. Then I'm going to go back 2 spaces and down 1 space with my arrow key, and then I'm going to hit the Shift End and then down arrow key, and that'll bring me to the end of the line. Now it's always 7 in this case, but in case it was 7 sometimes and 10 other times, that would be a way to make sure that you got everything. With the same approach here, I'm going to do a copy. I'm going to go up 1, over now 3 spaces, right click, say paste special, transpose, hit enter. Then just to, I can stop at this point, but just to make it easy, and because this schedule is in a set format, what I can do is I can go over 1, 2, 3, 4, a shift end, then I'm going to let go of the shift end, and I'm just going to hit my down arrow key, and then I'm going to go shift end again, hit my down arrow key again, and that is going to bring me to the next line. Now I'm going to stop at this point because what I've done is I've set it up so that I'm ready to go for the next one. So let me hit the stop macro button. And now that I have that, I can basically say Control Shift E, and it did work. It put it right there. And so I can hit Control Shift E, and that data is posted, and it brings me to the next line. I can hit Control Shift E again, and now it brings me to the end of the spreadsheet, which is telling me that I'm done for the day. I don't have to do any more. So I can hit my end button and go to the top again. And by doing so, I now have the 3 columns, or excuse me, 3 columns of data now as 3 rows of data. All I have to do now is highlight these columns here and just go to my data sort button and sort on, in this case, well, because I'm not starting at the top, it makes it a little bit curious. So let me just bear with me 1 minute here. I'm just going to head all the way down and highlight all that. And then I can go data sort. I can sort on the vendor field. And do I want to sort anything that looks like a number as a number? Sure thing. At this point, I'm fine with that. And then what it'll do is it'll sort that data and bring it to the top, all transposed. And again, moving a fair amount of data around, but within that particular spreadsheet. Now, just wanting to show another example of this, but a little bit more complex data. In this particular case, we actually have vendor information, address line 1, city, state, zip, and then down below we have a country sometimes, then we have a country phone, and a lot of times you can get data like this, and here I have 2 lines in between, sometimes I have 1 line, so it makes it very difficult to do basically a kind of a copy and paste and just transpose everything. It's just not going to work so well. So one of the things that you could do is to use a macro. Again, I would start with this is going to be very similar to what we did before. I would start with that first cell, hit the macro record button, and let's call this transpose vendor info. And we'll do Control-Shift-F for this one, and we'll save it just in this workbook. And now that I've done that, I can do my Shift and down arrow key. I can right-click copy. I can move over 2 spaces, just for lack of any better. Let's just make it 2. And I can right-click, say Paste Special, and transpose. Now, again, I can hit my end key to the left, which brings me all the way over, my end key down again, and we're going to stop at this point. And now that I have that, if I go Control-Shift-F again, it copies the data, but notice now it adds that extra field, brings me down to the next, Control-Shift-F, and not only did it finish, it got the phone in there as well, but it now brings me to the end. Now, one of the things I wanted to note here is that this Control-Shift-F thing, it really can be something that you're very, very quickly going with. So, I mean, if you had 100 vendors, you just have your Control-Shift held down, and you hit the F key over and over and over again. And, again, even if it's 1,000 times, if you remember playing some of those video games back as a child, hitting that button lots of times in a row isn't that hard. And even if you have to do it 1,000 times, it still is something that won't take that long and will get you to the bottom of the spreadsheet pretty quickly. Now, again, just wanted to note that there probably are some other ways that are beyond today's discussion, but would macro that even further. So, I mean, again, things to kind of look at on that MrExcel.com message board to learn more about, or, feel free to send an email with questions on things like that as well.